In Revenge of the Sith, Anakin and Obi-Wan traveled to the Invisible Hand to fight Count Dooku and rescue the Chancellor. This was one of the most important missions of the entire Clone Wars, as Coruscant was under siege and the leader of the Republic had been abducted. During the original fight, Kenobi is quickly dismissed by Dooku, and Anakin has to take on the Sith Lord by himself. So how would things have changed if Ahsoka Tano went with Anakin instead of Obi-Wan himself? To make this work, we have to change the outcome of the meeting just before this mission commences. At the end of the Clone Wars, Ahsoka is assigned to go to Mandalore to fight Maul and liberate Mandalore. This is a massive task, and since Maul's small empire had been creating various disturbances and even threatening becoming a third player in the Clone Wars, they had to be dealt with. But what I've always wondered is why Ahsoka was sent to fight Maul. Look, I love Ahsoka. She's arguably my favorite character next to Anakin, but she wasn't a Jedi. Technically, she shouldn't have been leading a Republic army, something that the Jedi Council would not have been pleased with. And from a Jedi's point of view, she hasn't been training hard in lightsaber combat in at least 6 months, and now she is supposed to fight the Jedi killer in Maul. It doesn't make any sense to me. What does make sense is sending the man who has proven himself as a formidable Jedi general, and most importantly, is the only Jedi in the galaxy to have defeated Maul in one-on-one combat, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So let's say that Kenobi is sent to Mandalore while Ahsoka joins her old master for one last hurrah in the Battle of Coruscant. Hey guys, please check out our Christmas sale at Fantasy Sabers, where we are offering a 15% discount on all sabers. Back to the video. When they encounter Dooku on the Invisible Hand, the Sith would follow his master's requests of getting Anakin alone. To do this, he focuses his attacks on Ahsoka, attacking with all of his might. In this moment, Ahsoka would simply falter, and Dooku would find his way through her defenses, knocking her sabers from her hand and using the Force to render her unconscious. As Skywalker and Dooku fight, Dooku lures the dark side out of Anakin, telling him to use his hate and anger. That's the only way to defeat him. When Anakin falls into the trap of the Sith, he allows the darkness to take over, and he fights with determination and passion, striking with all of his force until he gets through Dooku's defenses and chops both of his wrists off. This is where the story truly begins. Palpatine tells Anakin to kill Dooku. He is too powerful to be kept alive. As Anakin goes to murder the Sith Lord, Ahsoka wakes up and screams at Anakin to stop. The Chosen One's mind would be thrust between two halves. He didn't know what to do. As he moves his head to look at his apprentice, Ahsoka wouldn't use the virtues of the Jedi Code to say that he is breaking the code. Instead, she explained that this isn't him. He doesn't kill unarmed, defenseless people. In reality, Ahsoka doesn't care about the Jedi Code. She abandoned those notions many months ago when she walked down the steps of the Jedi Temple, never to return. But she does care about her friends, and she knows the dangers that Anakin will be under if he kills Dooku simply because he believes he deserves it. She tells him that Dooku will face justice, but sentencing him to death without a trial is the way of the Sith. Anakin lowers his head and nods, agreeing with her. Palpatine's smirk quickly fades as he tries one last desperate motion to get Anakin to kill Dooku. Dooku was simply a passenger in this exchange, following the facial expressions of his master. He couldn't believe it. He was trying to get him killed, but then maybe this was all part of his plan. Maybe Palpatine knew all along that Anakin would never kill him. The Count is arrested and taken back to Coruscant, where he will be tried for his crimes against the Republic, along with the rescued Chancellor. From here, after the Republic courts take over, Dooku is sentenced to life in prison. He remained loyal to his master, refusing to talk about Sidious to the Jedi or about the Separatists to the Senate. Without any concrete evidence that Palpatine had betrayed him, Dooku would remain loyal. The Jedi would now believe that they have a strong advantage in the war, that without Dooku, the Separatists will crumble. They set in motion their attacks, finding Grievous on Utapau and placing defenses on Kashyyyk for the upcoming battle. As for Palpatine, he would be very concerned. Dooku wasn't meant to be arrested. Anakin was supposed to kill him and prove himself that he is a murderer. But young Tano ruined that plan. If only Dooku was strong enough to kill her instead of knocking her unconscious, none of this would have happened. Dooku is now a loose end, Palpatine considers what to do next. He has two options. One, he could send an assassin into the prison to finish him off, and as Chancellor, he could make that happen very easily. Or two, he could break the Sereno Count out of prison. In Palpatine's mind, one way he gets one less powerful being on his side, and the other, he could use Dooku for something else. If Anakin isn't the one to kill Dooku, then Dooku's death is almost meaningless, because he isn't one step closer to turning Anakin to the dark side. Because of this, Palpatine votes for option 2. That night, the Dark Lord sneaks into the prison under the cloud of darkness. He wears a hood, and he has his sabers ready for any danger. Getting in and out would be relatively easy for something of his skill and understanding of the prison. The particular Republic prison he was placed in was only commissioned for the Clone Wars, and its creation was supervised by Palpatine himself. He knew the weaknesses, and where the large amount of guards would be. Using the ventilation system, he gets inside, before using the Force to distract 6 clone guards, and taking their identification to allow himself to sneak into the Force-restricted part of the prison. Locating Dooku, the Count would smile at the sight of his master. He knew he would come. Sidious tells him it's time to leave. Together they escape. Back at Palpatine's office, Dooku would be scolded for his loss to Anakin, but Dooku answered well, explaining that the boy will certainly make a fierce Sith Lord when they successfully turn him. In Dooku's mind, Palpatine wanted to abandon the rule of 2, and that Anakin was to be a Sith Lord alongside them, not in replacement to himself. Now that Dooku is saved, he is put back to work by his master. Palpatine tells Dooku about the dreams he is planting in Anakin's head about Padme dying. Palpatine's plan B involved Dooku. The Sith Lord was fascinated by the events that took place almost a year prior when Barriss Offee bombed the Jedi Temple and framed Ahsoka Tano. It was genius, and he was surprised he never thought of it himself. Dooku organizes his own bomb, and the south wing of the temple is destroyed by his detonation. 8 Jedi were killed, and 12 citizens were caught in the blast. It became a massive scandal for the Republic. Now the second part of the plan, having Anakin framed. Dooku placed all the evidence to ensure that all roads led back to Skywalker. There was no escaping it. His DNA was found at the scene, his quarters at the temple had gunpowder in it, and even his seat on the council had traces of the same molecules used to activate the bombs. It was certain to the Senate and the Republic that the Jedi had done it. In addition, Palpatine leaked to the Senate that Anakin was the father of Senator Padme Amidala. This only exacerbated everything and led to his suspicions growing even more. It gave a motive for Anakin's actions. Because of his affiliations as a Jedi, he couldn't openly marry and be the father to the love of his life's children. That has to have created some resentment in his mind. At least, that's the narrative the Republic media took. An arrest warrant was created for Anakin, and the Chosen One is forced to go on the run, even when the Jedi Council believed that he had done it, with suspicions mainly being driven from Master Windu, who despised the Jedi Knight. While this is all happening, the Republic is in chaos. Obi-Wan Kenobi returns to Coruscant with Maul in custody. Just like Ahsoka, he defeated Maul in combat, and the Jedi won the war on Mandalore. Without Order 66, there was no event to disrupt his return to the Republic capital. When he returns, the Council seeks an audience with the once Sith Lord. They had to get as much information before the Senate took over the case and disbarred anyone from speaking with him. Obi-Wan would make Maul tell the Council what he said to him. The Dathomirian explains that Anakin is being groomed to be his master's new apprentice. That it was always the plan for Skywalker to be the final apprentice to help take over the galaxy. There is no power like the Chosen One's power. The Council grew very concerned very quickly. Yoda inquired more, and Maul answered most of their questions about this topic. All Maul wanted to see was his master dead and not in control of the galaxy. He would be in a lot more trouble under a Sidious galaxy than a Jedi galaxy. Everything would finally click in the Council's mind at this point, that Anakin is being framed. Someone was making it seem like Anakin was the evil person, and it was likely Sidious to make him feel alienated from the Jedi Order. Plo mentioned how someone is a copycat to the same fake event months earlier, which Ahsoka smiles at. The council tasks Ahsoka and Obi-Wan to go searching for Anakin and bring him back. This would be very easy for the two Jedi. They know him better than anyone. They quickly disbanded the idea that Anakin was on the lower levels of Coruscant. That doesn't seem like his type of play. They thought harder until Ahsoka mentions that she knows Padme has a secret vacation house on the other side of the planet. The one part of Coruscant that has lakes and rivers. She goes there when she's stressed and needs time away from the busy central city. The Jedi travel there, where they see Anakin sitting on the deck neighboring the lake, his toes playing in the water. He asks how they found him, but the Jedi only scoff. They know him better than anyone. They explain they know he is innocent and didn't bomb the temple, and that the council is supporting him. The Senate and courts aren't on his side, but Yoda, Windu, and Plo are doing everything they can from their end. It is Sidious. He is luring everything from the shadows. As they talk on the lakeside, Anakin is thrusted into a vision, exactly like the ones he has been having about Padme dying in childbirth. But this time, it's different. His vision goes blurry as he sees a hooded man laughing as he marches towards a caped girl. Removing the covering on her head, Padme is revealed. Anakin starts to sweat in broad daylight as Tano and Kenobi begin shaking Anakin, trying to bring him back to the present. But he is fixed in his own mind. Anakin watches as the dark figure ignites a red lightsaber and thrusts it through Padme's heart, killing her and Anakin's unborn child in one swift motion. Anakin returns to reality screaming and falling to the floor. As he regains his senses, the Jedi demand to know exactly what has just happened. Anakin tells them about the dreams he has been having of Padme, always dying in childbirth, but how now it was different. Now it was the Sith Lord killing her himself. Everything was falling into place. Anakin was being deceived and pulled to the dark side. Their next moves were absolutely crucial. Obi-Wan asked if he saw anything else in the vision. Premonitions of the future usually contain some level of the truth, such as the location or the time, any amount of clues. If they can figure out where the Sith Lord kills Padme, they can save her. Anakin rejects this, saying he can't control when he gets the vision. It just happens and he is fixated on Padme. Ahsoka has an idea. Together, the three Jedi return to the council chambers where the council is informed of their recent events. Ahsoka says that the combined strength of the council will be enough to spark a Force vision in Anakin, similar to what they did to Yoda when he had premonitions of a wider Force feeling in the Clone Wars. They gather around the Chosen One and place their hands on his shoulders. At once, they begin chanting that they are one with the Force and the Force is with them. As this happens, Anakin's vision goes white and he is transported back to his nightmares. It is like he is the third person to the event, a silent watcher. As the hooded figure marches to Padme, he controls himself. Instead of looking at her, he looks at the surrounding building. It was definitely on Coruscant, and as Anakin found a sign, he knew that this was one of the complex buildings on the outskirts of the industrial area, where they had been abandoned about a decade ago. As he is transported back to the chamber, he tells the Jedi he knows where Sidious is. The council leaves at once. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Windu, Yoda, Plo Koon, Kit Fisto, and Ki-Adi-Mundi. Simultaneously, a clone squadron is sent to protect Senator Padme, understanding that the attack could happen at any moment. As the Jedi arrive at the abandoned industrial facility, they all run inside, screaming for Sidious. But as they round the final corner, they see him. He is standing with his hood covering his face, not revealing his true identity. Next to him is Count Dooku, who is smiling at the sight of the Jedi. However, in front of them is Padme Amidala, pregnant and crying for Anakin's help. The reins that kept Anakin tied to the light completely shattered at the sight. His lightsaber immediately ignited and his anger was boiling, his eyes beginning to burn. He smelt like darkness. Yoda told Skywalker to calm himself. They will save the senator together. As Sidious marches towards Padme and ignited his red saber, the council, in unison, leapt forward and began to strike, meeting the Sith's blade before it could reach the senator. The fight begins, and almost instantly, Kit Fisto and Ki-Adi-Mundi are killed by Sidious. Dooku focuses his attacks. This was overwhelming, the entire force of the Jedi Council. but he fought at a distance, using Force Lightning and Force Choke when he could, but he also understood that he was the most skilled duelist out of any of them. Sidious laughed as he fought. He did everything he could to fight them off. Ahsoka and Anakin were forced pushed back, and they took this opportunity to quickly rescue Padme, keeping her safe. Ahsoka stayed with her while Anakin re-engaged in the fight. Sidious struck at Plo and caught him in the leg, while Dooku took Obi-Wan's arm off. The fight was almost even, but the breakthrough happened when Windu overpowered Count Dooku and sliced his head from his body. When this happened, Sidious was alone against Anakin, Yoda, Windu, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka. He couldn't win that fight, and he calmed his arrogance. He used the distraction of Dooku's death to run, leaping out the window of the building to his speeder below and headed back towards the center of Coruscant. Anakin darted after him as Obi-Wan rushed to Padme and told Ahsoka he would take care of her. Ahsoka joined Anakin. The rest of the council dispersed, beginning their search for the Dark Lord. As Palpatine rode back into Coruscant, he knew it was time to execute Order 66. He had to get off Coruscant and to safety. The Jedi Council would kill him. He didn't understand how they found him, but if they found him there, they would know all of his hiding spots on Coruscant. He calls the ship to the top of the Republic Executive Building and executes Order 66. Carnage ensued on Coruscant as thousands of clones rushed the Jedi Temple and Jedi all around the galaxy began dying. The council didn't understand what was happening, but they had to go to the temple and help defend. That was the most important thing right now. Anakin and Ahsoka continued their chase of the Dark Lord. As Jedi fight the clones, Maul uses the destruction to kill the clone troopers who keep him guard and break his force handcuffs with a clone blaster. He was free. Just like on Mandalore, he could sense that his master was close and he yearned to kill him. He began running, following his senses to find Sidious. Along the way, he picked up a lightsaber from a fallen Jedi. As Maul arrives at the landing pad at the Republic Executive Building, he screams out to Sidious, catching the Dark Lord's attention. Sidious turns and smirks. Leaping back into combat, Maul fights his old apprentice. Something that Palpatine always admired about Maul was his dedication to the dark side. He smelt like it. Sidious used his connection to all 7 forms of combat to duel his apprentice, fighting him with a level of power never seen before. This fight would go on for a few minutes, with Sidious definitely having the upper hand, but Maul using his proficient and enhanced agility to keep up with his master. As Sidious knocked Maul back and it seemed as though he was defeated, Anakin and Ahsoka had finally caught up to the fight, and they leaped up from their speeder. In one simultaneous move, they ignited their sabers and swung for the Sith. Maul knew that he had to make his intentions clear quickly, and he began fighting on the side of the Jedi. When Anakin realized this, he told Ahsoka to focus on Sidious instead of Maul. Together, the 3 of them pushed Sidious back and were able to defeat him, with Anakin delivering the final blow, killing Darth Sidious. The 3 of them stood frozen over them. It was almost like none of them could believe he was dead. For the Jedi, Sidious was like a myth to them. No one had ever seen him, but whispers of him and his power had been heard ever since the Sith revealed themselves a decade prior. As the Jedi were encapsulated by Sidious, Maul used the Force to push them back, and he leaps into the ship that Sidious had intended to use to escape. Gaining a head start, he blasts the engine on and hits hyperspace as quickly as possible, escaping the grasp of the Jedi. Anakin and Ahsoka didn't even care. Their main adversary was gone. Removing his hood revealed the face of Palpatine, Chancellor and leader of the Republic. They couldn't believe it. At the Jedi Temple, the force of the Council was able to lead a swift and decisive defense of the temple, and the Jedi won. It was finally over. The outcome of this battle saw Anakin placed in front of the Jedi Council to see if he would be expelled from the Order. Much debate was put forward from either side. Some say he broke the code, and therefore he should be expelled. But it was also true that he was the reason they won the Clone Wars, and his attachment to Senator Amidala had not impaired his ability to act as a Jedi. Ultimately, Anakin was allowed to remain in the Jedi Order. As this vote is unanimous, it is official, and Anakin retakes his seat on the Council. Watching this from the entrance of the room, Ahsoka smiles, and she asks the Jedi Masters if she would be able to rejoin the Order, pleasing everyone in the room. Everything had gone in Anakin's favor. A few days later, Padme would give birth to twins and survive, and their lives as parents begin. The two worked hard alongside Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, aunt and uncle of the children, to raise them to the best of their ability. The future was bright, and Anakin, now a Jedi Master, who sat on the council with his old apprentice Ahsoka Tano, was pleased to be able to lead the Jedi and Republic into a new era of peace and prosperity. Ignite your imagination with fantasy sabers. If you enjoyed today's video, you must watch What If Obi-Wan Saved Dooku from Anakin, and What If Anakin Never Went to Mustafar. Please check out our saber shop, Fantasy Sabers, for the largest collection of replicas, Padawan sabers, and more. The link is first in the description. Thank you all for watching, and may the Force be with you.